We back with another video, man. We got NBA fans are wrong about Larry Bird. Now I know I ain't, so let's check this video out, see what they talk about. Let's get right into it. Let's go. Y'all see the sub count right there, man? We going up every single day, posting every single day. Let's check this video out, man. Let's go.
What if I asked you to tell me what comes to mind when you hear the name Larry Bird?
Let's think about it. Let's think about it. What comes to your mind, y'all? Let me know down below. For me, it's probably greatest shooter in his generation. You know, Magic also comes to mind. Magic versus Bird, their rivalry. Celtics also comes to mind. You know what I'm saying? There's a couple different things that comes to mind. Larry Bird, I just like, also, he's the greatest white basketball player of all time to me. But that's not like, that doesn't define him. He's just one of the greatest players anyways. You know what I'm saying? Come on now.
Probably think of things such as his great shooting. After all, Larry Bird had multiple 50, 40, 90 seasons.
Yeah.
And who can forget seeing him famously win the three-point contest in his warm-up gear? Perhaps you would think of his crazy passing. After all, you can find highlight after highlight of just some of the most ridiculous passes in NBA history.
Yeah.
Perhaps you would think of the great rivalry between him and Magic Johnson. After all, it's hard to talk about one without the other. Or you could think of individual moments such as Larry Bird hitting game winners, or playing a game with only his left hand. All of these are great Larry Bird things. However, what many fans probably don't think about is Larry Bird's defense. After all, the terms
Is that an underrated part of Larry's game? Okay.
Larry Bird and defense aren't commonly associated. Because Larry Bird was unathletic, surely he couldn't play defense properly. And the more and more I consume NBA discourse, a very commonly held opinion today is that Larry Bird was not a great defender. But what if I were to tell you that this is something NBA fans get totally wrong about Larry Bird? And as time goes by, more and more people just assume he was a bad defender. Or at the very least, not very good. And I get it, you look at Larry Bird, you don't particularly see the most athletic specimen ever. And you think, sure, he can play great offense. However, surely he got exposed defensively, right? Or at least they would hide him away.
Off the eye test, you probably don't think Larry Bird is the best defender because he's not, like he said, not the most athletic. He doesn't jump as the highest as everybody. He's probably not out there blocking shots, chasing down shots like LeBron James. But he is getting in there. He's getting poke steals. You know what I'm saying? He's in the right spots when he needs to. He's probably getting charges, blocking shots from behind when he needs to. He's probably out there playing a little bit of good defense. I never thought about that. This is going to be a good video, man.
Well, that is precisely what I used to believe about Larry Bird and what I find many people in the NBA community still believe to this day. It's hard to have a debate ranking players all time without someone knocking Larry Bird because they assumed he was a bad defensive player because he was unathletic. However, the more and more I dug into the facts, the more I realized how truly incorrect this idea was. Yeah. Larry Bird was actually a very good to great defender. Now, I never got to watch Larry Bird play live, as his career was well before my lifetime, but I also think I can share a unique perspective because I changed my perception around Larry Bird as I watched more highlights and as I dug into the numbers. But before I get into the major reasons why Larry Bird was actually a very good...
I'll be the first one to tell you though, numbers and highlights don't tell you the full story. Go watch some games. Go watch 4 games. See how he was in the, you know what I'm saying? You know the stats that don't really show on the stats when somebody's in the right spot, getting the right stop. You know what I'm saying? And when somebody's supposed to be coming down the lane, get an easy layup, and then Larry Bird hops right in front of him. You know what I'm saying? And stops that whole play. Those are the defensive plays that we probably don't even know about Larry Bird making. You know what I'm saying? That's what you really need to go do. Watch them games.
Defender. First, I want to confront what I believe is the biggest reason people undervalue his defense, which is the fact that Larry Bird is seen as unathletic. Now, admittedly, Larry Bird wasn't one of the best athletes in the league, but he also wasn't as unathletic as people made it out to seem. And when I really started to watch more Larry Bird highlights, I realized he was a lot quicker and more athletic than people claimed. And I believe that this quote by Dave Cowens, who played with Bird early in his career, perfectly sums it up. People always say he wasn't fast, but Bird was quick. He had a great first step and could get by people. And he could handle the ball with that first step. He had a quick mind and a quick release. There wasn't anything that he did not do well. He was a really tough cover for the other team. And when you really look at Larry Bird highlights, especially in the earlier part of his career, you can see him sprinting up and down the court with some of the best athletes.
Yeah.
There are other great moments, such as him famously dunking on Dennis Rodman. I think a major part of the reason people undervalue his athleticism is the way he looked in the last few seasons of his career. where Larry Bird famously had a lot of back issues. We are often heavily influenced by the most recent things we see of players, which in turn I think has led people to undervaluing his athleticism and by extension his defense even more. After all, how could someone as slow as Larry Bird play proper defense? Now, after explaining why Larry Bird was actually a lot more athletic than people claim, I still think it's important to acknowledge that while athleticism certainly helps with defense, I still find people overvalue it and undervalue other things such as defensive instincts and defensive IQ.
Facts. Okay, see, now we're really talking. I was gonna say, being athletic doesn't just mean you're a good defender. Okay, you could prove that Larry Bird was more athletic than people thought he was, but that doesn't equate to him being a good defender. But I'm happy he just brought this up. Thank you.
However, Larry Bird had great awareness and instincts on the defensive end, so he was a strong team defender, and he was also athletic enough with great instincts to play some pretty good individual defense.
Yeah.
Not to mention, Larry Bird was pretty good at using his 6'10" height to at least bother the offensive players.
6'10"?
But something I feel which has been lost with time is that Larry Bird was actually named to the all-defensive second team 3 times before injuries slowed him down towards the end of his career. So he must have been acknowledged as a pretty good defender to make these all-defensive teams multiple times. Now I get it, awards aren't everything, but they can reflect the media and fans' perception around the player. So it's very hard to believe that if the NBA media at the time thought he was a good defender, that somehow he was just tricking everyone. In addition to the media at the time awarding him these all-defensive team selections, the advanced stats...
It's also important to... We don't know how the media was voting back then. Maybe the fans had a vote and Larry Bird was just one of their favorite. You never know.
I strongly support the idea that Larry Bird was a good defender. Now, I understand that advanced stats shouldn't be the only thing you look at, but I also think that they can at least provide more context and more information to use alongside accolades and the eye test. Furthermore, advanced stats can provide a better picture than simply going off of points, rebounds, and assists, because the advanced stats have ways of accounting for other factors such as changes in pace, depending on the era you played in. And looking at Larry Bird's advanced defensive stats, they are all very good to great. Now first, as the saying goes, the defensive possession doesn't end until the defensive rebound is secured.
Facts.
And Larry Bird was a very strong defensive rebounder who would usually get the break going with quick outlet passes. And defensive rebounding is a very big part of defense, and even as a small forward, Larry Bird averaged 8 defensive rebounds per game. But looking at the advanced stat defensive rebounding percentage, Larry Bird currently sits 74th all time with a defensive rebounding percentage of 22.37. For context, this is above other small forwards like LeBron, Kawhi, Durant, and above many other great defensive rebounders. Of course, I understand this is only a single aspect of defense, and I'm not saying that ranking higher than a different player in a certain category makes you better defensively, but it's only to show that if Larry Bird consistently ranks high in the advanced defensive stats, where you typically find many of the best defenders sitting at the top of these lists, then in all likelihood, Larry Bird was also probably a very good defender. For context, looking at defensive rebounding percentage, players like Gobert, Dwight Howard, Rodman, Duncan, Garnett, they all sit at the very top. Now admittedly, he's only ranked 250th all time for block percentage, however that's still pretty good when you consider the sheer number of crazy good athletes the NBA has seen. And block percentage will skew more towards the power forwards and the centers. So for context, Michael Jordan ranks 217th, while Kawhi Leonard ranks 194th and LeBron is 191. Moving on to a different category, Larry Bird ranks a little higher in steal.
Alright, so this man is really going deep into the numbers and the all-time block percentages and the defensive rebound percentages. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's really going deep into that. And that doesn't equate, like I really said earlier, it doesn't mean that he was a good defender because of these statistics. You just can have good statistics because you were in the right spots at the right time, but not being just a good defender. You know what I'm saying? You can have a good block because the person is putting the ball up and you're just right behind them and you get a block. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if this equates to that. I'm going to skip up a little bit just to see. Look, now he's showing steal percentages. Like, I could find real good. I wish he was showing us highlights that was like, yeah, Larry Bird was in passing lanes and doing things like this. Talking about the numbers, yeah, I understand it, my guy, but it's not the best. You know what I mean? It's okay. I get what you're saying.
Conference finals. And while Larry Bird was not John Stockton when it came to steals, his instincts and feel for the game made him a threat to get tons of steals.
Yeah, you're not lying.
Defensive rating of 101.44. Now defensive rating can be
See, you know what I'm saying? He's like, these are good numbers. Larry Bird, like, good, but he was also like, you know what I'm saying? You like this is, I don't want to discredit and seem like I'm hating on Larry Bird at all either. Like, Larry Bird is one of my favorite players. Go check this channel out. I've been supporting Larry Bird from the beginning, man. Do not play about Larry Bird on this channel at all. But what I'm trying to say is, what I'm trying to explain to you guys, and I hope that you guys can understand, is that these numbers and these statistics, all-time statistics, don't mean anything when it means being a good defender. I know people in the NBA right now that are good defenders and probably don't have the best stats. You know what I'm saying? Don't, like, come on now, like, let's be real with it. Like, I know people that have good stats in the NBA right now that aren't the best defenders. So let's, like, we gotta be chill.
This can be a complicated stat. For context, the players with the 5 best defensive win shares are Bill Russell, Tim Duncan, Kareem, Olajuwon.
It's good stats
if you're a good defender when you use it alongside other stats, accolades, and the eye test. And
when you compare these stats against other all-time greats, it even makes Larry Bird look even better. So I'm not knocking on him at all, y'all. I hope y'all understand that. You know what I mean?
Another Larry Bird accomplishment, which often gets glossed over, is the fact that Larry Bird led the league in defensive win shares 4 times. Okay. Admittedly, while advanced stats are a way of adding more clarity,
he was a good defender.
They do have some limits and should be used in addition to other things. Perhaps you really don't care about advanced stats and really rely on the eye test. I suppose the tricky thing about the eye test is that everyone has different opinions on what passes the eye test for them. But from everything I've watched...
Alright, I'm going to finish the video off here, but I believe that with the eye test, that's the most efficient way to know who's a good defender. We could look at a person and be like, yeah, he's a good defender, not based off of his build, not based off of his height, not based off of anything. Y'all know players like Alex Caruso. That man, if you just regularly seen him, you don't think he's out there dunking, doing all the things he's doing, but he's an A1 defender. I'm not saying Larry Bird is an A1 defender, but what I'm saying is with the off the eye test, you'll probably be able to see, yeah, he was a good defender. He's able to stay in front of his man. He's able to hold his own. Or you'll be able to see, nah, that man was getting beat. He's getting a little old. That man's slow. You'll probably be able to see that off the eye test. So that's why I wish he showed more highlights rather than advanced stats. The advanced stats did tell a good story for Larry Bird, but I don't know if it told the whole story. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta see a couple highlights. I might check another video out for this. I didn't even know that this video was gonna be about defense. It just said NBA fans are wrong. It said look, NBA fans are wrong about Larry Bird. I'm like, what am I wrong about? Maybe I was wrong about that. I never thought about Larry Bird's defensive prowess, but now I can understand where you're coming from. Larry Bird wasn't a bad defender like people might say he was, and you did bring awareness to that. I appreciate you. I'm gonna shout your channel out. What is it? Tim Talks Basketball. Shout you out, my guy. This was a decent video. It wasn't the best one. If you want to really get your point across about Larry Bird being the best defender ever, though, or not best. What am I talking about? Not best defender ever, but if you want to make your point about Larry Bird being a good defender or above average defender, show some highlights, man. Show them, you know, go watch some games, game plan. Go take the highlights out of the game and go show us and break that down and really do a deep dive on Larry Bird being a good defender, and then show us and make this video like, yeah, you were wrong about Larry Bird being a bad defender. That's how I really respect it. But the advanced stats, they ain't bad. I'm not hating. I love Larry Bird. He probably still is a good defender. I know he was a good defender, man. I done seen him block some shots and get a couple steals, so I ain't mad at it. But he did let Jordan drop 63 on him. I ain't even talk about it. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this video down below, though. Was this a good video? Did the advanced stats tell the whole story, or do you think that maybe he should have brought some highlights in here? Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down below. I'll be in the comments with y'all. That's the end of this reaction, though, man. We have other reactions on this channel. We have more reactions to come in the future. If you guys could like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, that'd be good for me. And we out.